Voice-based computing has gone through a few pretty brutal years lately. Microsoft's Cortana, for example, flopped so hard that the company just shut it down completely with no direct replacement. Meanwhile, Amazon's Alexa business was such a colossal failure that it lost $10 billion per year. That means that Alexa was losing more money than even tech giants like Airbnb made in a revenue altogether. The scale of this operation and its failure is really hard to fathom. Jeff Bezos reportedly personally insisted on winning this voice computing segment and turning Alexa into his company's big platform to rival smartphones and computers, but even after sinking tens of billions of dollars and a whole decade into trying to build the ultimate voice platform, the average consumer still only wanted to use it to set timers and turn their smart home devices on and off. Google fared a little bit better, only seeing smaller layoffs publicly, but their platform has clearly lost a lot of its steam as well, with neither Google nor its hardware partners like Lenovo having released new devices dedicated to the Google Assistant in almost 3 full years. And while Apple doesn't share any information about its own layoffs, Siri has clearly gotten so few meaningful updates lately that even a simple update like the new ability to set multiple timers was somehow major news in Apple circles 12 years after the release of the virtual assistant. Of course, voice assistants have slowly become better over time, but by and large, the category has been a massive disappointment. Not a single one of these tech giants has figured out how to actually make money with their voice-based computing platforms after 12 years of their existence, and they also haven't figured out how to make consumers do anything even remotely complex with them. But just one look at science fiction tells us that people clearly think that talking to computers should eventually become a big part of the future. And indeed, a whole new wave of companies, starting with Humane and Meta, are claiming that the next wave of voice-based computers are now on the horizon, and that these will finally live up to the hype and turn voice and natural language into the interface of the future. So, are they right, or is using speech to interact with computers just fundamentally not actually that great of an idea in the first place? Let's find out. This video was sponsored by iFixit, where you can now get a special deal for Black Friday. More info at the end. The Humane AI Pin and the Meta RayBan glasses both have 3 major upgrades versus previous voice-based computers. First, instead of the old assistants that were mostly just giving pre-programmed answers to simple questions, this new generation has real generative AI built into them, meaning that they should actually be significantly smarter and more flexible. So instead of having to ask for a specific song in a specific way, like we used to, you can now say something much more basic, like play songs from famous sci-fi films, and the AI can just figure out this pretty fuzzy command because it's actually just GPT underneath. Second, both of these devices have a camera built in, and their AI can actually analyze what their camera sees with advanced computer vision. This makes for some pretty impressive interactions, like telling your device to quickly estimate whether you can eat some fruit as a diabetic based on its sugar content, or asking it how much protein there is in a certain quantity of almonds, or asking it to quickly check how much longer you need to grill your food. That definitely sounds like a potentially really impressive capability. And third, both devices are wearable and practically always on, so the friction of talking to them should be much smaller too. I think all 3 of these sound like pretty major additions to voice-powered computing that could actually make a pretty major difference. I'm especially excited about how these advancements could help people with maybe bad vision, or for example, elderly people who have often struggled to figure out computers in the past. If you've ever seen one of these millions of videos online of poor grandparents not even getting past the wake words of Alexa, or accidentally putting things on their shopping lists without actually understanding that they did, or not being able to turn their music on that they started, well, seeing all that, I think it becomes pretty clear that a much smarter and a much more flexible voice AI might actually be a huge game changer for them and a pretty nice bonus for us as well. But that is unfortunately not at all the framing that companies like Humane have used. They are painting a picture that I think is completely out of touch with reality. Specifically, Humane is saying that voice and their implementation on the AI Pin in particular is not just a cool new accessory, but somehow the future of personal computing in general. The company very explicitly and repeatedly claimed that their device was an actual replacement for your smartphone and that it will be the next iPhone, meaning basically the next form factor for general computing. The device has its own cellular connection that is not optional, by the way. It is explicitly not tethered to a phone, and there is no mention of a companion app on your phone either. In fact, this very much is basically a weird version of a phone itself. It's assumed to be running an Android-based OS on a Snapdragon chip, just like any Android phone, and it even costs as much as a phone, especially if you factor in shipping costs and taxes, plus a monthly subscription for the services. And overwhelmingly, the way Humane showed the AI Pin being used was as a completely voice-based device. Now, technically, it does have a screen of sorts, I guess. It's an extremely basic one that projects a very low-resolution monochrome image on the very imperfect surface of your palm and has to be controlled with very imprecise gestures, which is probably why their focus was almost entirely on the voice stuff. In other words, Humane's claim is that voice AI has now gotten so good that it's going to be the main interface for the next big computing category. And that is just comically wrong. I mean, speech for quick interactions with your devices, I'm totally for it, but as the main interface for the next generation of general computing, there's just like an absolute no, not in the foreseeable future. The first giveaway that this is an insane proposition is that you can't even set up the AI Pin using the device itself. You need to do it on a computer with a real screen and precise input methods, because just think about it. Inputting email addresses, spelling out passwords, or managing two-factor authentication codes and all of that via voice or via this really basic projector, they'll be so insanely inconvenient, people would return their devices before even completing their setup. And also think about all the privacy implications, like everyone around you can just hear you speaking your passwords and all your other data. That's kind of crazy. Oh, and I don't think it would even legally be possible. You know, those insanely long terms and conditions documents that you have to agree to for anything on the internet? How would those be presented to you in any meaningful way on the device that you just bought? They couldn't be. But let's think further. Here's my phone, and these are all the apps that I use in it on a daily basis, which represent the actual things that I use my phone for. Let's see how many of these things would be basically impossible to do using only your voice on a device like the AI Pin. Obviously, the apps that I use to remotely control my cameras, like my Panasonic app or my Insta360 app, for example, these are a definite no-go. And while we're at that, I guess any sort of social media app or video streaming app that relies on visuals is basically not possible either. That's most of your entertainment basically gone. But speaking of photos, I think you couldn't even view the pictures that you took on the AI Pin itself, let alone any pictures that others sent you either. Just goodbye photography, I guess. But moving on, how about things like banking and finance stuff? Beyond the privacy nightmare of others potentially just listening in on your finances, finance is also really complex. Can you imagine having to read out a 34-digit IBAN code without a display to look at while making a transaction, or quickly reviewing an invoice that you got from your boss or something via voice? Absolutely not. There is no way people would choose to do this. And the same goes for any kind of productivity. Sure, most people don't write books or do software development from their phones, but we do open the occasional spreadsheet for quick edits, or we scan a PDF file, or we update a shared document on the go, etc. And none of those sound remotely practical via voice, and of course without precise inputs either, so these apps are a clear no from me. I feel the same about anything that actually needs a map. Sure, a voice can maybe give you basic turn-by-turn navigations, but visualizing an actual map with many objects on it and browsing locations or finding new places to go to without a high-resolution screen seems borderline impossible, but definitely unenjoyable. So I think map-based apps would largely be really cumbersome as well. Next on, there is shopping. I mean, their demo of them placing an online order for a book that they found physically seems pretty cool. Until you realize that that is not how 99% of our shopping goes. Usually, you'd want to look through a list of products online, preferably with pictures. You'd want to browse competing ones and competing sellers. You'd want to see a price history maybe, or discount codes, reviews, delivery options, etc. Good luck doing any of this via voice, because guess what? Amazon couldn't make any of this work on their Alexa speakers in any meaningful capacity either. So I guess shopping is basically a no as well. And it's the same kind of deal with communication too. Their demo only ever showed them sending super basic messages like, "Tell Andrew I'll be there later tonight." That is nice, but now try to imagine literally anything more complex than that. Hey, you got a long email from your boss with multiple attachments. Good luck checking that with your voice. Or hey, you need to manage your 14 different messaging apps because you're a human that lives in 2023. Good luck managing that with your voice. Or your friend wants to video call. Okay, well that's definitely not gonna work. And the list just goes on. Nothing beyond really brief text messages actually makes sense. Oh, I guess here's a category that maybe could work well with your voice. Maybe listening to music or podcasts or controlling your smart home devices. Well, guess what? Those are the exact things that our existing voice assistants are actually pretty good at already. And even there, I don't actually think you'd want to do the more complex tasks with your voice. Like you wouldn't want to manage a Spotify playlist with your voice. You wouldn't want to troubleshoot a smart home device that doesn't have Wi-Fi for some reason with your voice. You'd want to have a screen for anything like that. In other words, I don't actually believe that speech is a suitable interface for the vast majority of the computing needs that we have on our smartphones today, and even in the foreseeable future. And I think that is because speech and voice has three fundamental shortcomings. First, it just doesn't work in public. There's the privacy issue that we have already discussed, and then there's the fact that everyone talking to their computers around you all the time would get mighty annoying pretty fast. Second, voice and audio are like an extremely slow one-way lane for computers. You either talk to your computer or it talks to you. Each piece of information has to be delivered one by one and always from the beginning to the end, with no option to skip ahead either. Like, compare a voice assistant reading a recipe to you, where you get this long stream of audio that takes you maybe a few minutes, versus the action of quickly looking up a recipe on your computer. You can instantly skim the article and the photos and switch to the next one in seconds if you don't like it. You can instantly skip to the parts that actually interest you. And by the way, your computer also shows you the time, your notifications, the status of your various apps, etc. while you read your recipe. Similarly, think about how much information you can actually perceive at once on a screen like this, and how you can skip to whichever part you want basically instantly. Our existing computers are like multi-lane, multi-directional highways that you can skip around on at any point. It's not even a comparison. And the third problem with voice is that most humans are not particularly coherent with their speech. I mean, we use speech quite well to vaguely describe things or kind of describe things, but as a precise input method, which is something that you want on computers pretty often, it's actually a pretty terrible one. If this wasn't the case, we would have already stopped typing a long time ago. After all, every modern phone or computer from the last 5 years or so has had text-to-speech capabilities that are actually pretty accurate. But even just for simple text, using your voice to create coherent written stuff is just not precise enough. And now imagine tasks like, I don't know, writing code with special characters, but using your voice somehow, or having to precisely adjust values, for example, while image editing, even with your thumbs. Voice just isn't remotely precise enough for many of the things that we want to do. So those are the main problems with a kind of voice-first interface. And I can actually also think of two potential solutions to the problems. The first one is to accept that, okay, maybe voice is not a replacement for our smartphones, it's maybe just a really cool addition, like a really, really cool one. And I think that is exactly what Meta's RayBan glasses are doing, and I'm much more on board with this idea. These glasses pair to your phone, and they are clearly an additional accessory to it, with all the voice capabilities just looking like a sort of nice extra. I would personally not feel very comfortable wearing Meta's cameras on my face, but as a general direction, I think this approach makes a whole lot more sense. And similarly, just a few days ago, Microsoft showed off a pretty cool demo of the HoloLens being controlled almost completely by voice and using its Copilot AI to analyze objects it sees around it during, for example, maintenance scenarios when workers need to use both of their hands. This is not a replacement of a smartphone, but a new and additional capability, and yeah, this too totally makes sense to me. Okay, and the second solution is to say that, okay, the voice capabilities of something like a Humane AI Pin, they're actually really cool. All we have to do to fix this is to add a really good screen on top and to add some precise input methods as well. In which case, I'm again on board, but I think at that point we've just reinvented the smartphone. Because yeah, I mean, you can use the GPT app on your phone, which can do basically everything the Humane AI Pin can do, as far as I can tell. I mean, it's literally GPT underpinning both, and on your phone you can either use your voice, just like with Humane AI, or any other input method, depending on which one makes sense for the task. So yeah, voice AI on the phone, again, makes sense. I think the idea that we can use our voice to naturally interact with generative AI is really cool. I just think that pretending that this will somehow replace the smartphone is a really dumb idea. Now, I think I've made it pretty clear that I think the Humane AI Pin should not go on your holiday shopping list, but instead, I actually have a pretty good recommendation for you. It's iFixit, who has Black Friday and holiday deals for the next few days that will let you buy a kit to fix the devices that you already have instead of buying new crap for the holidays that you don't need. It's a perfect gift for yourself or for another techie in your life. An iFixit set does not generate unnecessary e-waste, and instead, it gives its new owner a whole lot of control and confidence over the gadgets that they already love. I got myself the Pro Tech Toolkit, which has a bundle that has everything that you need for actual repairs, including an absolutely fantastic premium screwdriver set with tons of different heads, an electrostatic wristband, which I admit I always kind of cheaped out on before, and a whole bunch of tools for lifting up screens and whatnot, plus this handy magnetic mat that will help you not lose any of your parts during the repair. Oh, and you also get cute little patches and stickers like these. Meanwhile, there's also a gamer bundle, which is primarily aimed at PC DIY folks. There's the Essential Repair Bundle for those who want a more compact repair set. And of course, you can buy most of these items individually as well if you want to. iFixit even sells actual components for your broken electronics, plus they have over 100,000 free manuals and repair guides for not just electronics, but even appliances, cameras, cars and trucks and more, so you can actually repair your own things with confidence. They are a genuinely amazing company that helps take back control over your devices, and one that has been fighting for a right to repair for many years. All of their products are super high quality with a satisfying weight and snap, good grips, high quality materials, etc. There are lots of thoughtful little details like this flexible attachment for your screwdriver so you can actually reach all the angles. And so a set like this is actually a really quality thing that you'll be happy to own yourself or to gift to someone else with confidence. With my link in the description, in the holiday seasons, you get extra discounts for Black Friday, free shipping, etc., depending on the exact days and locations that you're buying from. So check them out for the most up-to-date details at the link in the description. Happy fixing, and I'll see you in the next video.